Dear friends, welcome to the Priest Podcast, sponsored by the Napa Institute. You may not know it, but one of Napa's most meaningful efforts involves the formation and support of priests and religious. We have become fascinated by the stories of our clergy. Through this podcast, we want to bring you some of these amazing stories too, but in a way that is unique. Priests interviewing other priests from all walks of life and backgrounds. We think this series will be a great resource for everyone, those considering the priesthood, as well as those in active ministry who may be struggling or just looking for good ideas. But even the laity will benefit by learning more about the needs and thoughts of the clergy as we consider how to support and pray for them, given all they do for us. So sit back and enjoy this glimpse into the life and work of the priest.
Hello, everyone. This is Father John LoCoco, today's host for the Shepherd's Circle Priest Podcast produced by the Napa Institute. I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast Father Gregory Parent, a priest of the Diocese of Green Bay and Executive Director of Catholic Youth Expeditions. He was ordained a priest in 2018 and since has served as parochial vicar and parochial administrator until his present assignment. I'm excited to hear him speak about his priestly experiences. Father Greg, welcome to the Shepherd's Circle Podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you with us. I think you have one of the more unique ministries, so we'll certainly get into that. But just today, as we gather here, what are you keeping yourself busy with today?
Today is a work day. So today it's a little bit of a day off and a little bit of a work day. So I'm hoping to get outside a little bit and also maybe some lawn mowing, maybe some firewood chopping, which gets into the uniqueness of my assignment a little bit. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's one of those things where I was sitting in my office the other day, and the rectory for the parish is a small house, like across the street, just in the suburb. And I look and I see this car that was in my driveway, and I was like, who is that? And I see this woman who was watering the flowers that are in like a window box. And I've never seen her before. I knew that somebody watered my flowers, so I wasn't like imagining that they were like surviving on their own. But it is one of those things where I'm like, I'm not even allowed to like water my flowers. The people are so good about caring for the campus. And you're out there chopping wood and mowing the lawn. So you and I definitely, I think, are living in a different reality. But even in seminary, I mean, you were really, really good with your hands. Father Greg was always like in the wood shop making stuff. And I think you certainly adhered to St. Joseph, his spirituality, quite a bit this way. But just as a bit of a background for people, would you mind just sharing with us like where you're from, how you grew up, and just sort of maybe some of those touch points of Catholicism that really start to lay the foundation for your own discernment?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I grew up in the Green Bay area, just outside of the city itself. I grew up in a very faithful Christian family, but I was actually baptized and raised Episcopalian through middle school. At that point, my parents really started to decide that they wanted to pursue the truth, as they were just finding inconsistencies that they were having trouble stomaching. And they had both been raised Catholic. They had been married Catholic. So long story short, over the period of a couple of years, we found our way back to the church. And this will get into the beginnings of my vocation story a little bit. But as we came back to the church, I was your classic 7th or 8th grader who was raised in a Christian family, but hadn't really started to take it seriously for myself yet. And one of my mom's concerns as we were coming back to the church, she was completely all in with everything the church teaches. But one of her concerns is that in our Protestant church, there had been a ton of stuff for my brother and I, for the youth. And she hadn't really seen much of that in the Catholic church. So she went to our pastor of the church we had just joined and been confirmed in, and said, is there anything I can get my kids involved in? And I think she wouldn't say this, but I think in particular, she was worried about me. My brother was fine. So in that, she was looking for something to get us involved in. She asked our pastor, and he said, well, I know of this brand new ministry that just started up called Catholic Youth Expeditions. It's led by a seminarian named Quinn Mann, and another seminarian helped found it, Luke Strand. And it sounds like your son might enjoy it. So that's how I got involved with all of this stuff. And that was the beginning of what would become the way the Lord called me to the priesthood.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I think it's one of those aspects, even in parish ministry today, that seems to have changed quite a bit. The youth ministry aspect. I remember growing up, I feel like every parish had like a youth minister, and there was certainly like this more like focused response from the church to say we need to provide something for our youth. But even then, you and I are at the same age, but even then, you're saying what the Episcopalian Church offered in terms of like ongoing formation and ministry for young people was much more robust.
Yeah, it was really a focus. It was really something that they took seriously, and I would say the church we were a part of focused on all of it. So they would have tons of opportunities where they would have formation events or whatever it was. I don't know what they were talking about because I was a kid in the kids part of it, but it was a really robust community in that sense where they would invite all the families in. They would have something for the adults, and then all the kids would go into the other part of the church and have our thing. So it was a really concerted effort to form the whole family while also intentionally pursuing the children. It was led to beautiful community. There's some people that even though we kind of are now Catholic, there's people that are still in our lives from that time in our life, which is pretty awesome. It's kind of an admirable aspect of the community that they formed that we'd love to learn from and run with a little bit on our end of things.
Would you say that was it a smaller congregation? Like, do you think that that was part of it? It's like easier to sort of navigate that family to family interaction, or was it a big place and they just were doing it better?
I would actually so this is by Green Bay standards, but I would say it was a pretty big place. So I would say it was as big as any of our parishes in Green Bay, with maybe one or two exceptions. If it were a Catholic church, it would be considered one of our bigger assignments. So yeah, I think it was just absolutely there were the core people who were more involved than the people who would just come to mass on Sunday or once in a while. So there's still all of that, right? But I do think there was something really intentional and special about that.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I've met your parents a couple of times before, certainly, and I can appreciate your father's frankness. You mentioned sort of like that pursuit of truth, like that was certainly something that resonated with them. Do you feel like growing up that was like a very clearly articulated aspect of your family life, like truth, having integrity, being a person who's not duplicitous? Was that like not only exemplified by your parents, but that was something they kind of hammered?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. The biggest things that would get us in the most trouble is if we got caught lying or disrespecting our mom. That was you were done. Those were the two things that obviously among other things. But yeah, so I would just say in general as human beings, as men, my dad really formed us in that as well as my mom. And I would say then that kind of taking that seriously was really not something that they were actively trying to pursue and finding a way to leave the faith. But in the Episcopal Church, there was a kind of a controversy that took place, and they were a part of the community trying to determine how they would go about handling the controversy. And what they actually happened upon, interestingly, was the lack of central authority outside of the Catholic Church is incredibly frustrating as soon as you have to make a real decision, because you have nothing to lean back on. You have nothing you just have to argue, and whoever wins the argument is kind of how it moves forward. So they found that very, very frustrating, and that was what brought them to start to question, wait, I think there might actually be something that the Lord intends in this regard. And that led them to rediscover the beauty of the hierarchy of the church, which I just find beautiful personally, because a lot of times that's what people find maybe frustrating about the church. And it's really what led us back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and while your parents are really actively asking these questions and kind of bringing you and your brother along, I don't want to sort of like misrepresent who you were as you described yourself as a middle and high school student. Were you there praying in the choir loft and singing often? What sort of like kid were you? Because this can make it sound like you're going to Episcopal camp and you're thinking about central authority in the church. But in reality, because I know you were probably playing 1,000 sports, right?
Yeah. This was my parents. This was them kind of taking me along with them. None of this was in the forefront of my mind. I was completely caught up in sports, completely caught up in all the stuff that middle schoolers are caught up in. We went to public school for most of our lives, and just all that stuff is what I was caught up in. So, like I said, when my mom discovered Catholic Youth Expeditions, it was, we'll just say, out of maybe a little bit of well-placed concern in me. I love telling this story because it was at the point in seminary where it was pretty clear that I was going to get ordained unless something was pretty far along. And my parents were always really supportive, but I was just with my dad. We were just having some father-son time, and he just made a comment that I just thought was incredibly accurate, where he said, if your brother had said he was going to be a priest, we would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. When you came to us and said you were going to be a priest, we were shocked. I think that's an entirely fair evaluation of he's very justified in having felt that way.
Yeah, I think you kind of get both. It's kind of like as our Lord calls like Matthew from the tax collector's booth, he also calls like John the beloved, this like young and fervent and vibrant disciple who desires to seek him out. And I think you could kind of get both. You get like the real surprises in terms of vocations. You meet other guys who are like from the womb, like you almost felt like, yeah, this is what the Lord's been calling you to. I certainly, having 3 older brothers, my parents, same reaction. They're like, you were the last one we would have expected. If someone is going to be a priest, it was not going to be you. It's going to be the brother who reads poetry and is, really thoughtful and sensitive. It's not going to be the jock, and so I think, yeah, your parents had a similar sort of reaction. But, so you're in high school, you're playing sports, you're, doing what high school kids do. You're still going to church. You're kind of going to these youth expeditions. We'll kind of tag that for a conversation a little bit later. But like how much was priesthood on your mind while you were in high school? When did that really start to crop up?
No, not at all. Not at all. So, I so credit my parents with this, because as busy as we were with sports and taking sports seriously, my brother ended up being a Division I track athlete at the University of Minnesota. Like we were taking sports really seriously, but one of the things that my parents never ever compromised on is you're going to mass, right? Like that's non-negotiable. If you get the basketball tournament that takes all weekend, you're gonna find a mass or you're gonna miss a game, right? Like, and that could even affect you. But then I hated it, obviously, right? Like, no, sports are my life. But now, of course, they were completely right, obviously. So, that was the kind of atmosphere that we grew up in. And I forgot the original question that I started explaining that with, but
How much priesthood was on your mind? You're going to all these sports, you're going to mass, but it's funny. I tell parents that all the time, and I think it's really helpful. You're probably in the same spot, because club sports have never been bigger than they are now. Like growing up, the people who did club sports, it was much more of a niche thing. It was either for a niche sport or is there really like just for volleyball or this. Now there's like a club and travel team for everything. And so I get the strain that has for a family, but it's nice for both of us to be able to like, look, I did 4 sports in high school. I get it. And my parents had the same approach. It was like, just tell your coach, I'm missing Saturday night's game or Sunday morning's game. Which game do you want me to miss? And at the same time, like, I think just reminding parents they have the autonomy just to like make that decision, and it's good for the kid. But you sold yourself short a little bit. Your brother went to the University of Minnesota, but you also had a lot of interest from some colleges to play to run track in college as well, didn't you?
Yeah. That was kind of the direction I was heading, the direction I thought I would be heading, certainly, until the Lord made it clear otherwise. So that was definitely a big part of my life too. Yeah.
Where did that happen? Where all of a sudden you started to sort of change the trajectory a little bit?
That would be at Catholic Youth Expeditions. So,
well, I'll interrupt you there. Why don't you explain what CYE is? You're the executive director of it, but why don't you just provide an overview of what CYE is, how it started, and kind of where it is today?
Oh, I'd be happy to. So, back in 2002, Father Quinn Mann, who's a priest of the Diocese of Green Bay, he's the pastor of a big parish on Green Bay's west side now. But in 2002, he was still in seminary, and when he was praying that oration, the Lord just gave him the mission statement of CYE. So the beautiful gift of pursuing a relationship with the Lord. Well, I'll tell you what it is. The mission statement is to encounter Jesus Christ and foster Catholic Christian community through expedition retreats of prayer, proclamation of the gospel, and outdoor adventure. So that just came to Father Quinn while he was praying, and he just really took it and ran with it. So he was good friends with someone that people in Milwaukee probably listening to this will know very well, Father Luke Strand. So he and Father Luke founded the ministry together. And originally it was super simple. Father Quinn and Father Luke would just take their friends camping for a weekend. It was really based off of John Paul II's ministry of bringing young people into the wilderness, just getting them away from the noise of life, the craziness, and forming community and fostering a relationship with the Lord. So one thing would lead to another, and gradually it started to take more of a concrete form. So I won't get too much into it, but the Diocese of Green Bay used to have a retreat center on an island in the middle of the Bay of Green Bay called Chambers Island. So Father Quinn sort of tried to make that the home of CYE at one point. There was in 2007 was the first time there was a volunteer summer staff. The summer staff was made up of, again, some names that Milwaukee people might know, the likes of Father John Gibson, Father Jacob Strand, Mike Mangione, the musician, all these really awesome guys. And they lived together in intentional community and held these expedition retreats where high schoolers and young adults would be brought out into the woods to camp. We just used the property of the retreat center. And but cooked all our food over campfires, stayed in tents, pursued outdoor adventure of all different types. But then, of course, the non-negotiables were daily mass, daily holy hour, confessions, just the beauty of the simplicity of the liturgical life of the church. So that summer, 2007, was the first time that I attended. So it was the first year there was a summer staff, and it was the first year that I say my mom literally shipped me off to my first CYE because you had to take a boat to get to the retreat center. So not knowing anybody, not knowing what I was getting into, knowing that it was a church thing that I was being sent to, got on this boat, and the rest is history there. So the ministry founded as just this way to draw young people to the Lord. Gradually, it grew and moved and shifted. In 2009, a couple of huge things happened for the ministry. The Sacred Heart Fathers, who are the same Sacred Heart Fathers down in Milwaukee that the Milwaukee or the St. Francis seminarians study at Sacred Heart, same order, had a retreat center in Door County that was originally their novitiate, and they were just kind of moving away from that ministry and were looking to divest of the property, but still hopefully keep it in the church. So Father Luke, actually, I think, was the big, this will surprise nobody who knows him, but he was the big kind of push from CYE to interact with the Sacred Heart Fathers, make the mission known, and the Sacred Heart Fathers loved it. So they gave the what we call St. Joseph's Formation Center now. It's up on Kangaroo Lake in Door County. They gave the property to the Diocese of Green Bay with the intention of CYE using it. So we have an incredible setup here. It's 7.5 acres on a lake in Door County, Wisconsin. The diocese we're a pretty simple, small ministry, so that we could never afford anything like this. But because of the generosity of the Sacred Heart Fathers, and then now the diocese lets us use it basically for free. So we've really set up home here since 2009 and have run everything out of here. Also in 2009, Mother Mary Catherine of the Divine Word, foundress and Mother Superior of the Missionaries of the Word, showed up as the women's formation director. So a lot of people listening to this may know who she is and may know who they are, but in case you don't, they're a fairly new, just over 10-year-old religious order that was founded in the Diocese of Green Bay by Mother Mary Catherine. So they've been an integral part of it ever since. So now Father Quinn led the ministry until right around 2020. And there was a year of transition where he was moving into a parish, because he had been here for almost 20 years. He was the founder and the only guy who ever ran it. So there was a year of kind of transition period, and then that following year, Bishop Ricken assigned me here. So we're still here doing the work of expedition retreats for high schoolers, young adults. Our big emphases are on forming people in the interior life. So that's kind of what we're all about, right? Back to that mission statement, to encounter Jesus Christ. That's the core of everything that we do, whether it's the high school groups coming up, whether it's young adults on silent retreats, whether it's other offerings we have for formation in the interior life for young adults. and we do it in the context of Catholic Christian community. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And I've had the opportunity to be up there a couple of times. In fact, I learned to water ski up there with Father Quinn. So I imagine many people receive that merit badge from him. But just when you say like an expedition, so now you're executive director up there, which is why you're mowing the lawn and cutting firewood, working with the sisters, running these different retreats and expeditions. But just like in general, I mean, you talk about expedition. Like, do they just come up there and you throw them in the woods and you're like, good luck? Or are you with them, or are there young adults leading them? Like, what is that like as executive director? What are you doing precisely?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a beautifully small ministry. So Father Quinn really founded it this way. Our goal is not to have 500 kids at a camp, and so you've probably noticed I'm intentionally using the words expedition and retreat as opposed to camp. I haven't said the word camp yet, right?
That's true. My fault. I'm sorry.
I wasn't. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. No worries.
It's fine. I ruined it. Okay. Why is it not? Why is it not? Why is it not camping?
Yeah, so it is camping. Here's how I describe it. It's a camping ministry, right? So Father Quinn was adamant that it's not a camp because for him, a camp was something that you put on artificially for people to come. Now, that's a good thing, right? I'm not, we have a camp, Camp Tekawith in Diocese of Green Bay. Madison is an amazing camp, Camp Gray, right? There's a place for that, absolutely. Father Quinn was just saying that's not the place we're filling. So his thing is we're not putting on anything. There's nothing inauthentic about this. I'm never going to give a script to our summer staff and say, this is how you convert people. You get up and say these words and I'm not suggesting that other camps, this is how they operate, right? Not at all. But for Father Quinn, that authentic Christian community, that authentic just being together as people who are in love with the Lord is what changes hearts. So when we have a handful of different things that we offer at CYE, and they all focus on three things, right? So we're always praying. We're always focused on the interior life. We're always trying to form people in a deeper relationship with the Lord. So that life of prayer is integral in everything we do. The life of formation then too is also integral. That's the second thing that we are really passionate about, because although we absolutely want to spend time with the Lord in prayer, we also have to learn from the spiritual masters of the church. We have to learn from our spiritual tradition to know that we're actually following the Lord and not who we think the Lord is or who we wish the Lord could be, right? We need to really intentionally form our conscience, form our heart to be in real relationship with the Lord. And then outdoor adventure is kind of the medium we choose to use to accomplish these other two things. So everything we offer at CYE is a combination of those three things, and we emphasize them differently depending on what we offer. So the expeditions are going to be an emphasis on outdoor adventure. So when people come up, we're camping. Now with high schoolers, we're camping in our backyard, right? It's nothing crazy. If you've never been on a camping trip before, you're going to be just fine. But you're sleeping in tents, you're cooking food over the campfire, you're not showering, you can jump in the lake, right? But that's about it. So you're roughing it. With the young adults, we can do a little bit more adventurous stuff. We'll go backpacking in our state parks. We have amazing state parks in Door County. We'll do, being above the age of 18, we can get a little bit more adventurous with the young adults. We did a walking pilgrimage to the Shrine of Our Lady of Champion a couple of years ago. That was awesome. So there's always some more, some more exciting things we can do with the young adults. But
Do you get a lot of Catholics outside of the Diocese of Green Bay, or and I know I know there are Milwaukeeans who go up there, maybe outside of Wisconsin. Do you have people who learn about CYE and bring people?
absolutely. So certainly the biggest is Green Bay, followed by Milwaukee. The won't surprise anybody to know that that's where most of the people come from. But then yes, all over the place, right? So it's actually pretty amazing how people discover us. From just all over, particularly our summer staffers. We had one from Ohio this past summer. We've had them from California. We've had them from Texas. We've had them from Minnesota. There's a huge young adult Catholic community in the Twin Cities that ties in here. So we had an applicant. It ended up not being a good fit for her, as she obviously it'd be hard for her to get here. But we had an applicant from the U.S. Virgin Islands for summer staff this past year. So it's like, that's not expected, so it's just, and really they're just seeking out what Father Quinn designed. Where can I get formed in the faith? That's a kind of a hole in what's kind of commonly offered to young people that we see, and we're striving to fill that.
Oh man, that's amazing. And I think something that I've been really blessed to watch over the years is just its growth, and it's been something that feels so anointed by the Lord. Just to see how that campus, in so many ways, is still true to its bones, right? But it's also much more accommodating. Like you now have like priest suites, and you host priests for retreat if they want to come up there. And I think I know like people have been like meeting with Mother for direction and meet it with you. And I mean, it's really like a spiritual hub, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We're pretty grassroots as far as that's concerned. So we have our focus. We have the things that we do that focus on those three things in our official programming, and we can't do much beyond our official programming. But one of the things we love to do, if we do have time for it, is let priests come up here on silent retreat. So it's kind of got to fit in. We don't have a ton of facilities here, but especially in the school year, we have stuff most weekends. But a lot of priests want to make their 5-day retreat during the week, and we can usually host them for that, give them a place to pray. And Mother loves, being with her priest and being with anybody who can come up here when she can. She's obviously busy running in order, but it's really an incredible place and a beautifully simple place for people to come to encounter the Lord.
What's something that you find really life-giving about ministry that's so different than most diocesan priests, and what's something that's really difficult about not being in a parish?
Yeah, so I think I always say this is such pure version of preaching the gospel. It's so grassroots. It's so small. I'm the only technical like paid employee of CYE. We don't have a maintenance staff. We don't have a kitchen staff. We don't have a cleaning staff. So the sisters and I run the place with some beautiful, amazing volunteers that we have. But yeah, we're doing the maintenance. I'm doing the maintenance administration. Mother and the sisters are doing the cooking and cleaning. It's just and because of that, we can so purely preach the gospel, right? We do have an amazing board of directors that helps us run the place and make sure I'm staying on track, but they're so supportive of the mission, and Bishop Ricken's so supportive of the mission. And that really lets us, in a very authentic way, just preach the truth, form people in the interior life. One of the most exciting things that we do, I started it when I showed up here over the school year. We have what I call the CYE Winter Institute. And that's for young adults who are, I mentioned there's those three things, and the different things we offer emphasize one of those three things more. What I tell people is if formation is your favorite part of CYE, the Winter Institute's for you. So it's the same group of young adults that come up every month throughout the school year. So they commit to one weekend a month for 8 months. But what we do in that time, because it's the same group that's coming up, they're really pursuing the interior life. We give them formation throughout the weekend from the spiritual masters, John of the Cross, Teresa of Avila, Teresa of Lisieux, Ignatius Loyola. And we give them a ton of time to pray. We offer them spiritual direction. One of their 8 weekends is a silent retreat that they can come on. So we're really trying to help them build a robust interior life based on the tradition of the church. So it's just one of the most life-giving things. I would say I get to work with the coolest young people in the state of Wisconsin. I get to work with the people who are just pursuing the Lord. They want to grow in their faith. They want to bring that back to their home. They want to be a missionary in their secular life. It's so amazing to see the generosity of these young people. The summer staff that we have a volunteer staff of young adults throughout the summers. I would say my beard's getting gray because we always have Milwaukee seminarians that come up on staff, which we're incredibly grateful for. They're amazing. We always get a handful of them, and it's just so good to have them as a part of the community. But they're just on fire with the mission, and this is a place they can learn the mission and live out the mission in a really kind of pure way. So that's definitely the most incredible part of it. I would say the hard thing, like there's good things and hard things with anything. I miss parish life. I don't wish that I were anywhere else. I absolutely love being here, and I know that I'll have plenty of time in my priesthood to be back in parish life. But every once in a while, I'm free to cover a mass for the local parish up here in Door County. And when I go there, it's always kind of like, oh man, this is great too. I miss this. Just being in that kind of what's become the ordinary way of the diocesan priest living out his life. But in the specialized ministry I'm in, it's just such a gift as well. So it's a lot of work, but it's really good work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good example of, I think, something often that many can't, maybe people are thinking about Dawson priesthood. They see the sacramental life, they see the priest at the parish, but yours is such a unique ministry. And it's not to say that one should enter Dawson ministry because they hope to receive something unique, but I think it's almost an example of, like, you give your yes to the Lord, and he's so generous and so creative in how he calls you to live the gospel, that I also love that sort of flexibility within Dawson ministry. A good example is CYE, like Father Quinn Mann, who's a seminarian, who just says, I just want to start bringing people out into the wilderness. We're going to pray, we're going to have mass, and that's going to be good community. And just kind of giving that yes to the Lord, it's really flourished over these last couple decades. And so I think that would be the word, maybe, to someone who's thinking about Dawson priesthood, is listening, is like, yeah, if you're willing to be a joyful messenger of the gospel, the Lord is going to, like, really take that and just kind of increase it 100-fold. So just as we kind of draw to a close, you've shared really beautifully about your current ministry, kind of what led you there. Just what practical advice would you give to somebody who's listening, maybe, and they hear about this ministry, this outreach, they just hear about everything that's exciting you, like, and they're just interested more and more in priesthood. Like, what's your advice to the discerner who might be listening to this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest piece of advice I can give is fall in love with the person of Jesus Christ, and that may sound cliche, but that's the source of all vocation. I would say that the one thing that I make clear up here actually is we're not here as kind of a discernment retreat, right? That's not why you're coming here. And what I mean by that is, when we understand discernment to be the question of which one am I going to do? Am I going to do that one or that one? Right? That's not actually what St. Ignatius is talking about when he talks about discernment. What he's asking a very simple question. The question he's asking is, who are you in relationship with? Right? That's the question of the discernment of spirits. That's the question of discernment, capital D, in general, right? Like with pursuing a vocation. Mother Mary Catherine always says, your vocation is not a problem you figure out. It's a gift you receive. And you receive the gift from a person, right? So the advice that I will give till I'm blue in the face is pursue relationship with the Lord. There's no shortcut around intimate relationship with Jesus. If you happen upon whatever vocation, marriage, religious life, priesthood, outside of intimate relationship with the Lord, it's not going to be what it was intended to be. Your vocation is the context for relationship with Jesus that he designed you for. So let him form your heart into the thing that can receive the gift of that vocation. Go to adoration, pray, spend time in silence before the Lord, go to mass. Trust that he's forming your heart into that thing. Don't get discouraged. If you're sitting there and it's like, well, I haven't received my vocation yet, that's okay. You're in relationship with Jesus. Keep letting him be the focus of everything. I promise. He's not hiding anything from you. He's not trying to keep it from you. I try to point out to the young people that are a little bit distressed, maybe, that they haven't come to their vocation yet. What is that? Like, let's pull our eyes off of ourselves. What does that make God look like? Right? How are we understanding what a vocation is? Well, I made you for something, right? And you, if you don't find out what it is, you're going to be miserable and maybe even sinful. So you have to discover what your vocation is, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to figure it out for yourself. Like, no, that's not him. That's not what he's like, right? So trust him, abandon yourself to him, become deeply immersed in relationship with him in the interior life, and know that it's all within his providence. And then make a decision, right? At some point, the discernment. I think our generation started this. If I'm honest, our aversion to commitment, right? Because I think there's a misunderstanding of discernment that would say proper discernment means that it's not my decision, it's God's decision, right? I'm gonna enter seminary when I'm so sure that he's calling me that I don't actually have to make the decision. He's made it for me. Right. And we can even get down to the minutia of our daily life. I whether I have dessert or not, right? I don't want that to be my decision. I want it to be God's decision. That's not what it means to follow God moment to moment, to invite him into your life day by day. He gave you your freedom for a reason. He wants you to use it to love him, right? So he's intimately involved in the minutia of your daily life, but always with your free will intact. And that goes all the way up to the big picture of your vocation. Put yourself at the service of the church. Put yourself at the service of the Lord. Let him draw you into that thing that he desires for you, even if that's not what you expect. And if you're living in that place of trust in him, like you said beautifully, the adventure is going to be there. I promise. It might not be the adventure that you thought, but if you're entering on the adventure for its own sake and not for the sake of the Lord, you're not going to find the fulfillment you need there to continue moving forward.
Absolutely. Now, if you're listening to that, imagine that fervorino from Father Greg, and then you get to eat a s'more, and that's basically CYE. I love it. So if you're curious, if I remember correctly, your website is cyexpeditions.org. So if you just Google Catholic Youth Expeditions, you can see more about it. And I think, Father Greg, it's so good to connect with you, to hear about your great ministry. It's certainly one that I think we're all called to live, that sort of the reality of the gospel, living in the real world and recognizing that it's there that the Lord wants to meet us. So, friends, as we draw to a close today, just a word of thanks to Father Parent of the Diocese of Green Bay, who shared so beautifully about his vocation, his life, his work, especially to hear about CYE and the amazing effect that it's had on the local church in Green Bay and abroad. Imagine what it would be like if we had more priests like Father Greg. So that's why the Lord urges us to pray to the harvest master for more laborers for his harvest. Join us in praying for shepherds after Christ's own heart, and encourage the young men you know who show signs of a vocation to ask Jesus in prayer whether he might be calling them to serve him, the church, and the world as ordained priests. Please check back next week for an interview with another hardworking priest in the vineyard of the Lord. I'm Father John LoCoco, and I've been delighted to be your host today on the Shepherd Circle Priest Podcast. God bless you.
Thanks again for joining us today. For more information about how you can join us in supporting our work with clergy and religious, go to napa-institute.org. May God bless you this day and always.